Right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Vodex Podcast, where we explore the future of voice AI in industries like finance, healthcare, and collections. A quick introduction about myself. I am Anshul, co-founder and CEO of Vodex. At Vodex, we are building voice AI agent that can engage in human-like conversation over phone call. We talk about Vodex at the end of the podcast. Now, today, we are going to deep dive into the world of debt collection. It's a space where regulations, technology, and human behavior collide. And we are thrilled to have one of the most respected voice in this domain. Our guest today is Susan Richards, founder and CEO of CredTech Consulting. We met Susan at RMI conference in Las Vegas this year. She has over 36 years of experience in account receivable management industry. She has been in leadership roles in operations and compliance, and she has also been a board member of Women in Debt Relief and was recently named CEO of the Year by C-Suite Insider. So, Susan, it's truly a pleasure to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Susan. So, Susan, why don't we start with a quick overview of like CredTech Consulting? Like, what exactly is CredTech Consulting and how you started? And maybe you can give a quick overview of what you exactly do in CredTech Consulting.
Yeah, a little bit of my background, being in the industry 36 years, I left like a company that I had been their COO for 20 years. I was working for NCB Management, and in 2020, over COVID, I took a leap of faith and went out on my own to start another debt buying collection agency. And although that particular venture didn't work, what did work was it taught me entrepreneurship, and I jumped into my own company in 2023 by being a consultant to our industry. I'm a little unique in the way that I don't typically consult like everyone else. I am a connector for sure. I definitely connect. If you are looking for something in our industry, I can connect you. But that's not really what my, where I ground out or help out is agencies that are either suffering or may need to transition into other verticals. They'll call me and ask me as like a fractional COO to come in, typically for 6 months, 12 months, to reinvent them, right? To restructure their company and leave them obviously performing better than they were before. Same goes for debt buying because I have extensive experience with debt buying. I also have dipped my toe into all of the operational side of an agency and debt buyer. So there is a lot of technology that I refer out along with. I get involved in the BPO because a lot of people, a lot of companies right now are using offshore because of the costs to collect. Because all these outside expenses cost these organizations a lot of money, and we try to figure out the best solutions, streamline it, and ensure that they're making a lot of money. And then I also dig deep into the compliance side of it. Although I might refer one of my other consultants as an expert in that particular, piece. But, I come in and I look for, as many issues as I look for what's going to impact them the most, and then we go from there. So that's kind of an overview.
Right.
I do a lot of other stuff, but that's kind
Right.
of just a brief overview of CredTech Consulting.
Awesome, awesome. That makes sense. And I mean, that's a great help. Like you have been doing this since last 36 years. That's awesome. And you have been helping. I mean, these are the things which is most required by, I think, companies. Like, how do I manage all the compliances? How do I navigate? How do I reduce my costs and all? So I think great support you are doing there. Now, I just wanted to understand, like, I think you have worked with a lot of collection agencies, a lot of credit unions also, I think some BNPL companies also. So what are the different approaches? Like, like let's talk about a big bank versus a big collection agency versus a small collection agency versus a credit union versus a new age BNPL companies. So what are their approaches in when it comes to collections, and what are their needs? And maybe you can highlight, your experience working with big collection agencies versus small, and like how they approach collection, how they're inclined towards automation and AI. Maybe if you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and Shoal, this is a big, broad, what you just asked was a broad, very like, so there's a lot to what you just asked. So, a big bank is definitely going to be completely different than a fintech. A big bank has spent the time not only on originations, but the whole life cycle of the customer. They have models that they put in on how those accounts will go through their ecosystem. And when it hits a 30-day delinquency, it'll be worked internally. And they'll work those accounts typically up until 6 months. And at that point, if that delinquency is still there and they haven't rolled that customer back, that's when they consider it a charge off. And then they use outside agencies to take it from there. And some big players don't use agencies at 6 months. They've decided to build another internal outsourcing program within, which is interesting. So that's good in some ways for them, but it reduces agency, uh, grouping for like some big banks may have had back in the day 20 or 30 collection agencies, and now they're down to 8. So that gives you an idea of the difference. And they have established, I'm sure, a lot of technology through that process, but we'll get to that. A credit union is totally different. They're more interested in the customer, and the customer is a member, and a member to them is valuable, whether you're current or whether you're delinquent. They feel a certain sense of loyalty that their outsourcing is going to be at an extreme, it has to be certainly pretty delinquent before they outsource it. And even when they do, their agency network is going to be very customer centric. And they're not going to, I wouldn't say credit unions will only go legal if they have to. Not all of them. I mean, the bigger ones, the Navy Federals, are totally different. I'm just talking about a mid, small range credit union. And then a fintech is a whole different animal because they come in really wanting to originate a whole lot, and they don't really think about the recovery side when people start going delinquent until it happens. And then they are like, oh, do we just sell? A lot of fintechs just sell at 60 days because they're like, you know what, we're not going to collect any of our debt. We don't want to be bothered. We'll just sell it, get our return back, and keep, you know, um, offering more and more loans, keep originating, right? And then so large credit, or you said something about collection agencies and how they operate. When an agency, and it depends, like a big agency will get Citibank, Chase, the big players, a huge collection agency. You have to have a huge infrastructure, and you have to be in a position where you are SOC 2 Type 2, like your security has to be at top notch. In order for you to gain any market share from any of those folks, um, I would have to say you have to be probably in the top 10 agencies, right? In size, capacity, and able to take on the business. Because, there's a lot of requirements with the big banks and what they allow,
Right.
and I won't get into any specifics, but I'll tell you that the banks that I worked with are, you run by their shop, even though you're an outside agency, you're doing it their way. They're coming in and doing audits every single month, sometimes not every single month, depending on the client. So it's a whole different, again, ecosystem on how that works. And it's not going to be, it's going to be more directed to what they expect, regardless of whatever you are, you're really an extension of them. And then a smaller collection agency will focus on players that will be willing to, I would say, more local collections, maybe. Maybe the mid-range banks will go. A smaller and mid-range collection agency is ideal for the customer who wants to be priority in their shop. If you think about it, the big agency is going to have the big client. And in turn, if I'm a little mom and pop shop, I'm going to get eaten up in that agency. I'm not going to get my account collected properly. Whereas, and I've dealt with both. I actually deal with the whole realm of collection agencies, from really small to mid-size to extremely large. And I just know that each one of those is an ecosystem, and anytime anybody's placing accounts with an agency, they really need to identify what they want and then choose the right agency. And a debt buyer that's passive is going to have a huge amount of agency network, because they're not collecting anything. They're just outsourcing it all. So they have to have a really good ecosystem and have quite a few agencies on the bench. And just because you're working for a debt buyer doesn't mean you don't go through heavy duty compliance, and you still go through a whole due diligence. All these folks, every single one of them, even down to the credit unions, maybe not as much with credit unions, you have to go through a huge due diligence to earn the business. So that's kind of everybody, I think. Did I
Wow.
handle everybody? I think I did.
Yes, yes, that was very awesome insights. Like, got a very clear picture about all different, the big banks versus the small collection agencies. But in your view, like we are mostly talking about AI, and because our company is more focused towards AI, just wanted to understand your perspective, your view. Like, if we have to approach out of all these, like we have option of big bank, credit union, debt buyers, small collection agency, big collection agency. Whom do you think as a AI startup we should be approaching, or whom do you think is currently the best fit for, like using AI in their use cases? Like, should we approach a big collection agency, a small one? Who do you think will be more likely to adopt these AI solutions? What do you think?
Well, I think it's a multiple of different types. So look, everybody that I speak to knows that if they want to stay competitive or stay in the industry, they're going to need to adapt to the new world. And I say that I've been doing this 36 years. There was a new world in 2008
Yeah.
when the CFPB came on, and there's always innovation and changes. And if you don't adapt to it, you will fall off and eventually get eaten up, because someone will have a better mousetrap than the next person. And so AI, the only thing I'm noticing and I'll speak for me personally, I think you're always going to still need a human when it comes to collections. Whether that human is controlling the AI, or whether that human is a part of that AI, I think it'll still always be in the ecosystem. And when I say controlling the AI, they may be the one involved in the video chat or the audio chat, or what the responses are, or whatever. I think the concerns are always going to be, will this bot go rogue, or they call it hallucinate,
Hallucination.
and act out and do something detrimental. And I think when it comes to a big bank, they're going to be slow and steady. They'll adapt it when they know it's been tested and retested So I think from your perspective, getting into a city, a Chase, a Bank of America is going to be really hard out of the gate, because they're gonna go through major due diligence testing and stuff, and it's going to need to be a proven concept. In a medium-sized company like Midbank, I still think there's a lot of fear in this, right? They don't know what they don't know. So it's going to require, from your perspective, a lot of education, a lot of trust, a lot of communication. And I would have to guess that it's going to still take time, whether that is 6 months or a year, I don't know. As you know, a lot of AI products are coming out all at once, right? I got this bot, I got this bot, I got this, I can do that.
Yeah.
And I even open when I was at RMAI, I got to listen to a few things, but I don't know whether or not any of it really is, people who have used it, like, we're everything's new. It's all kind of startup, if you would. So it's not like we have 5 years of proven data to say this is how it's working and this is the results. So I think from my perspective, it's going to be test to time as we test out And I think you're probably going to dig into maybe small to mid-sized companies, and they're going to try. They're going to take the risk. They're going to say, you know what, we'll try it, and then take it from there, you know.
Right, right. That is amazing insight. I think yeah, totally makes sense. Definitely, all these big banks and all these big collection agencies, they need something proven. Like they say, like if it's a first flight, it's if it's a first aeroplane, nobody wanna sit on that first plane unless it has flown 10 times. Once it is
Yeah.
tried and tested, then everyone wanna sit on that. So it totally makes sense. Thank you. Just building up on that. So talking about all these regulations like FDCPA and TCPA, all these things that these regulations. So, how do you think these regulations are, shaping? Like when these collection agencies have to adopt these technology, they need to make sure that all these new solution, new AI solution, they are following these guidelines, these TCPA guideline, FDC. CPA. And I know like in TCPA, some earlier they have mentioned that, like any type of bot call is banned, something like that. Initially they have mentioned. I think later on they have clarified. So just wanted to understand like what do you think how these regulations like FDCP and TCP are shaping the technology adoption of these collection agencies? Like, what do you think is like how are they shaping the technology adoption? Like, is it uh, like do they have any fears of like adoption because of these compliance? Are they making it difficult, for collection agencies because there are so many regulations? Is it making hard, or do you think it's actually to safeguard these collection agencies? Like, what's your view on having these guidelines? Do you think it needs to be slightly softer, or it needs to be even more tighter for collection agencies? Like, what do you think in terms of guidelines and how they are impacting these collection agencies?
Well, just like anything new, there's going to be regulations, and I think you're going to see this. I know that the CFPB, obviously, things are in a little bit different turmoil now than, so the states are going to take over, but I can assure you that they're going to have regulations like everything else. And I think you're going to have, that's the biggest fear on why people don't jump into AI, because again, they don't know what they don't know. And there will be regulations. There's going to be, just like everything else, this is when you can use a bot. This is when that bot can call. Does the bot have to identify who they are and what they're calling about? Where is that at? Like, do you understand? Like, it's a whole, again, compliance has evolved since 2008. In 2008, we didn't have a compliance department. We didn't have anybody doing call recordings and call listening.
Right,
Like all that evolved over time, and then so that becomes an expense. So you're probably going to have a compliance team overviewing the AI scenario. But so we have to look at, it's all going to be coming down to cost to collect. And look, these agencies don't have unlimited budgets.
right.
That's part of the thing that I would want to communicate. Like when the cost to collect, call it, for every $100 you get 20%. So you get $20. Where's that $20 going to? Is that 10 going to all my back office stuff, and then another five to my FT? I'm just, what's my margins? Am I only making $2 an account? I'm just saying, like, the agency has to know, like, how they're going to make money on each account. And, um, and then all these compliance factors come into expenses.
Yes,
So I can assure you at some point, AI is going to have the same kind of compliance systems as, our 7 and 7 rule on call, how many times we call somebody, the kind of pitch we communicate, how we have to give, the mini Miranda and the call disclosure, all these, procedures. It'll just be another compliance and another procedure that'll come into play. When will that happen? I don't know. I mean, I hear a lot of rumbling all the time. I think if you're an RMAI member, that's the best way to stay on top of things because they're on front of it,
Yeah,
making sure that, you know, our state, because now it's state. I mean, the CFPB is not as much. So each state is going to help us, well, not help us, but they're going to be the ones making the rules and regulations. And then we kind of we'll have to follow that, right? So.
absolutely, absolutely. And no, compliances are there to safeguard the people, the consumer. So I totally, it will be there. And as you rightly mentioned, there are still concerns about hallucinations and, things like bot going rogue. So it's kind of come on us to make sure like we provide those kind of experience to the customer that as you said, like trust will build up over the period, like maybe 2, 3 years down the line. Totally makes sense. Now, let's say like all those concerns are addressed and like the bots are able to deliver what they promise. What do you think? Like, what kind of ROI these you know uh, agencies, collection agencies expect? Like from the new tech, what are their expectations? Like, how they measure the success of these new age technologies? Like, do they want to reduce cost? Do they want to collect more? Or what kind of like success criteria do they have? Or what's your experience? What do you think, like when you talk to collection agencies, what are they expecting from these AI solutions? Any views on that?
Yeah, you just said it. Reduce costs and make money. They want both. So if you could come up with the magic bullet to do both, but that's really what they want. They
Right.
want to get, they would prefer, listen, if somebody comes up with a really, really good bot that, does everything proper and is tested and time tested, and I mean, you know, one bot takes over 10 or 15 agents, well, that's a pretty big reduction in your output, right? It depends on whether this bot, how far it goes in, and does the bot notify the consumer, hi, I'm Susan Richards. I'm a computer bot and I'm here to help you. And I will help you resolve your debt, and if you do want a live agent, then we'll transfer you over. But so that bot may be able to walk through all aspects of that recovery and not need to go to a live agent, or at least the reduction down. So I think your agencies are looking at the best technology for the best price that's going to get them the best return and obviously reduce overhead. So that's what AI's uh, that's what this secret sauce of AI is being discussed. So hopefully that's what happens. And, look, we don't want jobs to go away. So that's why I said you'll still need a human behind it in some way, shape, or form to monitor it, to keep it going proper, to make sure it doesn't, that's my guess, but that's my personal opinion.
Absolutely, absolutely. Totally makes sense. And yes, you need eventually a human being who can like verify things. How is it going? But do you think like maybe 2, 3 years or maybe 5 year down the line, can these AI agents replace humans like autonomously do end-to-end thing? Do you think like not right now, obviously, but maybe 4, 5 year down the line? How do you see
We'll
like?
see. We'll see. I think some will. I still think, again, we're human beings, right? So there's the part where this is still a robot. I'm not saying that it won't be able to handle maybe 80% of your portfolio, but there's still that 20%. We all have personalities, and let's just think and figure out personality tests and figure out someone's emotions. And yeah, maybe somebody's getting angry, and it might not be able to de-escalate that person, or that person's crying because they just lost everything. I think they'll still need a human. I don't know about 100% ever of anything. And I've never known that in all the 36 years. I think it's a tool and you're going to use it just like all the other tools. Now, are you going to fill up your toolbox with AI 80% and 20% of humans in your toolbox? Maybe. Maybe some agencies are comfortable with 50% of my AI and 50% human. In 5 years, I think it's going to be the level of risk of each company and what proven metrics has come out. And I can assure you the bigger players are going to wait till they see that it's been tested and over tested and retested, and they know that there's not one iota of compliance. That's what they'll do.
Amazing, amazing. That's great insight. And in general, if we try to understand like where the collection industry is headed to, like apart from AI and this, what else are you seeing? Like what other kind of technology adoption and how it is evolving the collection industry? Maybe you can share some of your insights on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, so the loan losses continue to go up, and we have different markets of people that a lot of consumers, um, and again, don't want to be talked to by a human. They rather do everything self-serve. So I think any company needs to have a really great online presence. You need to start, just like us, like you, me, anybody, we all have a brand and how we operate. They need to build an electronic brand. I'm just coming up with this now, actually. I think this is imperative, though. If you came up with an electronic brand that will show that customer not only is it seamless to pay us, you go online, you pay us through our systems, everything is automated, receipts come to you in a perfect manner, and the process is great. I don't know about you, but I've had different, like, technology. I'm gonna pick on Samsung. Only because when it comes to TVs, you want them to be ideal and great, but when it comes to things when it goes wrong, man, it's like you can't find a service guy anywhere. So I think branding, whether you're a collection agency, whether you're a debt buyer, whether you're Vodex, whoever you are, you should be customer centric to the hilt. Figure that out. Figure out ways that that customer is going to be able to get into your system so simply without a lot of, and be able to do things as the least sophisticated person who may never have ever used IT before or any kind of, that's the ideal. If it's a push and play, that's what people are going to look for.
Amazing, amazing. Great, great insight. So yeah, totally. I get it. Now, last question, like what advice would you give to, let's say, a collection leader, let's say a person who is into collection industry, maybe a mid-sized collection industry, someone who is responsible for, adopting digital or AI into their collection agency. So if a person like that comes to you, like what advice would you give to them? Like if they want to implement some latest technology like AI into their collection agency, or maybe into like maybe a bank or a BNPL company or maybe a credit union. If any leader in top position who is responsible for collection, if they have to today like adopt these AI solutions into their organization, what advice would you give to them? Like where should they go and research more about it, or how do they like uh, try out one of these solution in their organization? What would you say to them, such people?
Homemade. No, I'm kidding. No, I would say that first things first, they have to find out, they need to do some research on. I always try to get three players in whatever they're looking for, and then go through their different, obviously they're going to put them through a Zoom call and show them all the bells and whistles of their system. And then try it and maybe get a free trial for a little bit, or at least a reduced cost trial, because you want to try it out and see where it works, see where it doesn't work. But if I will say that any mid-range or small or large agency has to keep looking forward. If you're looking in the rear view mirror, you're not looking forward, and all your competition will be flying right in front of you. So my goal or my suggestion is look ahead, know what's on the horizons, educate yourself on all these tools out there, like Vodex, like any tool, and then take that tool and then look at a bunch of different ones. Which is the greatest tool that's going to work in my particular toolbox, and take a look at a couple of them and then make a decision. But I think trying it's got to be a starting point. So and and I don't know anything about whether you do this or not, so if you do, I'm sorry, but sometimes I think it's imperative for any provider, supplier of any product service that they have some sort of at least 90-day trial period for the customer, whether it be at a reduced cost or not. But to sign somebody up for a year contract and they haven't even tried, like they don't know if the system's going to work, I think will pigeonhole you out. So I think if you're a provider of any tech, you got to have some sort of systems put in place to give that person, uh, you know, they got to try it, a little bit before they buy it. And if the buying part is too much, then reduce it down and show them a way so they can see it. That's my opinion.
Absolutely. No, it totally makes sense. Like first you need to get the confidence in the system, whether the system works or not, before they sign any contract, whether it's of a 1 month or 1 year. Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's really great insights. So, thank you so much, Susan, for sharing your experience there. I mean, that's totally practical wisdom, and I think that's the vision of future of collection that you shared with us. Very insightful conversation. So, any last point that you would like to share with all of us, to the listener, maybe a startup like us who's providing the technology, or maybe to a collection agency, small or big one? Anything you would like to share at the end?
Now, well, one is thank you for having me. This goes to you, of course. And second of, well, you have to be open-minded. And I told you before, I'll say it again, that if you're looking in your rear view mirror, you're not looking ahead and you're going to crash and burn. So it's just like a car. You got to be looking in all directions of where you're going and figure out solutions that are going to propel you ahead. And clients are going to want to be onboarded to people that are forward thinking, that do have the technology, are able to text, who are able to email, who are able to communicate in multiple channels, and AI is just another channel. And if you don't have that if you're not looking at that, then again, I don't, I think that the competition is going to blow right by you.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Susan. And in the last, let's say, Susan, the listeners want to connect with you, or if they want to learn more about CredTech Consulting, where they can go, where they can follow you, if they want to listen or understand more about your business.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn all the time, so you can look me up on LinkedIn, Susan Richards, or you can email me, susan.richards at credtechconsultingllc.com, or you can connect through you. I'm sure you can give them my contact information. So yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm not hard to find. Just Google me, I'm there. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Susan. Thank you for taking time and doing this podcast with us. So, thank you so much once again. And for the listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to follow Vodex.ai on LinkedIn and visit our website, Vodex.ai, to learn more about how Vodex is building voice AI agents that are changing the game for debt collection. This is Anshul from Vodex.ai, and thanks again for tuning in. And we'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you so much, Susan. Thank you.
Yep, no
Yep.
problem. Bye bye.
All right.